Yo, so guys, welcome back to another Patreon suggestion, and this is the Colorado River is dying and it could crash the economy. Answers with Joe. I was planning on posting this onto my YouTube, but now my YouTube has been suspended. I don't know if a lot of you will know, my YouTube has been suspended for a week, so I can't post any reactions. I've been posting on my second reaction channel a bit, and also my new channel that I've made recently. I posted an update on what happened, and I've just been posting. I posted like one reaction and then like another unrelated video. But yeah, that's what's happened. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, just gonna grind out the Patreon. We're gonna get through a lot of suggestions. And yeah, there's gonna be a lot more reactions coming here. Let me know what other videos you want me to see. Oh, I've got a burp coming. But yeah, we're gonna check this one out. It seems like it could be quite an interesting one, to be fair. It's a different type of topic, so yeah, I'm interested in getting into this one. But let's just check it out and see. I've never seen this guy's channel either, I don't think, unless I have and I just can't remember.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2022, and I sincerely hope that you've gotten a good start to this year and that 2022 brings you all the success and happiness you could possibly imagine. One way that many farmers in Arizona have started out this year is by losing their crops due to massive water restrictions that is essentially making them the canary in the coal mine for a massive ecological disaster. Come on, you got like 10 seconds of happiness there. What else did you expect? Lake Mead, which straddles
Straight
Arizona
into the dark story.
Nevada and provides water and power for millions of people, is currently at only 35% full. It's literally the lowest the lake has ever been since the Hoover Dam was built in 1931. It's been going down for a while, but just a few months ago in August of 2021, the federal government declared a water shortage on the Colorado River for the first time ever. And with that came restrictions on Arizona farmers that would go into effect in January of 2022.
Shit.
Or in other words, now. But there's a reason for all this concern. The Colorado River is dying, and it's dying fast. And if nothing is done about it, this could be the beginning of an ecological disaster that could permanently reshape large swaths of the United States. There are a lot of things in life that are profoundly important to us, but we spend an insanely small amount of time thinking about. It's just one of those modern conveniences that we've all gotten used to.
Yeah, like you don't think about what you actually need, it's just sort of there. And then when it's gone, you realise, oh shit, this really impacted me in a lot of ways.
We've become spoiled by. Things like how our electricity is generated, where the trash goes, how the microwave works.
So true.
And where our water comes from. Because we don't see the full life cycle of the resources we consume. We remain blissfully ignorant of it.
Yep. 100%.
Until it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when little things start to
I like this guy already, man. I feel like this is going to get really sort of in depth about the situation, about something that I've not known about. And maybe this has got worse since this video has been released as well. If you know about the situation, let me know in the comments too. I'm going to let this run now. I've been pausing a lot, but this is going to be a really interesting video.
Happen, like, you know, society collapsing. Which is why that water shortage declaration is a big deal. It's basically changed the government stance on it from a position of, well, you know, maybe something will happen to, okay, we need to make something happen. The declaration will reduce Arizona's water supply by 20%, or 512,000 acre feet. By the way, an acre foot is around 325,000 gallons, which is enough water for 2 or 3 homes for an entire year. Jeez. Reductions are mandated for Arizona, Nevada, and also some parts of Mexico. And what this means for some farmers in Arizona, especially in Pinal County, is that they're going to just leave some crops unplanted this year. These same farmers are expecting their entire water supply to be cut off in 2023. And that could happen if Lake Mead's water level drops below 320 meters above sea level. That would prompt some further restrictions. According to Jennifer Pitt of the National Audubon Society, quote, as this inexorable seeming decline in the supply continues, the shortages that we're beginning to see implemented are only going to increase. Once we're on that train, it's not clear where it stops. These are drastic measures that will financially impact thousands of farmers, but the fact of the matter is, 25 million people rely on Lake Mead for their water supply. Overall, the Colorado River supplies water for 40 million Americans. That's 12% of the entire U.S. population.
That's insane.
What happens to the Colorado River affects almost every major western U.S. city, 30 Native American tribes, 5.5 million acres of farmland in certain parts of Mexico. And the flow of that all too important river has declined by 20% in the last century, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. And more than half of that decline is due to rising temperatures across the region. The study also found that without significant reductions to greenhouse gas emissions, it could go down a further 31% by the year 2050. This is a climate crisis playing out in real time. So what can be done about it? How do we...
Is this white chalk looking stuff where the water once was, or is this just something else that's just how? Because it looks crazy by the way, but it all looks so aligned. It must be where the water like was for so long. Look how far. If that is, look how far it's dropped.
get here? You know how you guys are always begging me to do more videos about river systems and the minutiae of interstate water compacts? Well, guess what? Your day has come. The Colorado River is a massive system of rivers and tributaries that flows through 7 states across 2,300 kilometers from Colorado to the Sea of Cortez. And it plays such a significant part in the ecology of that region that it's often called the lifeline of the Southwest. The river begins at La Poudre Pass in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado at 10,184 feet above sea level, where it's fed by melting snow in the mountains. Unsurprisingly, it's very close to the Continental Divide. Rivers to the west flow toward the Pacific, those in the east flow toward the Atlantic. From its headwaters, it flows south and feeds Grand Lake, Shadow Mountain Lake, and Lake Granby. Then cuts across western Colorado through Grand Junction before it enters Utah and starts carving up the southwest.
Bro, look how many like terrains it goes through. It goes through like snowy mountainous areas to like woodlands to like desert like areas. Bro, that's nuts.
National Park.
And this is just in Colorado too. Yeah, man, this sort of stuff makes you realize just how crazy how crazily diverse the land in a lot of these US states really is. Like, bro, in the UK, you would not get this kind of diversity nowhere near, man.
Park, Moab, the Canyonlands, Glen Canyon, before collecting into Lake Powell. From there, it goes on to form Marble Canyon before the mother of them all, the Grand Canyon. Shortly after that, it forms Lake Mead, passes through the Hoover Dam, and flows south, eventually feeding Lake Mojave and Lake Havasu. It then continues flowing south, creating the border between Arizona and California before it enters Mexico at Yuma and eventually ends its journey in the Gulf of Cortez. This river has not only created and shaped some of the most beautiful natural landscapes in the world, it crosses a wide range of natural environments and ecosystems. Alpine tundra at its headwaters, through semi-arid plateaus and canyons to arid deserts in the lower basin. It's one of the most heavily developed rivers in the world, and that's nothing new. People have been using this for agriculture for thousands of years. The Ute and Southern Paiute Indian tribes hunted and gathered in the plateaus and canyonlands, and the Hohokam Indians in the lower basin built the largest prehistoric irrigation system in western America on the Gila and Salt rivers. There's also the Yuman tribes who did extensive floodplain farming along the Colorado River. And it's also gone by many names over the years. Various Native American tribes called it Tomichi, Na'ankaré, or Akanaquit. Spanish explorers in the 16th century called it Rio del Tizon, which translates to Rivers of Embers or Firebrand River. Some maps later named it the Rio Colorado de los Martyrs and the Rio de Cosminas de Rafael, kind of tying its characteristic red water with the blood of martyrs. Settlers in the 1800s named it the Grand River, possibly because it's the river that flows through the Grand Canyon. And though Colorado became a U.S. state in 1876, the river didn't go by that state's name until 1921, when U.S. Representative Edward T. Taylor from Colorado pushed for Congress to change the name of the Grand River to the Colorado River because it should have the same name as the state where it begins. Congress approved that name change in the same year, which means that officially the Colorado River turned 100 years old last year. I bet you didn't even send it a birthday card, you monster. I didn't send one last year either, but we probably should have. The Colorado River irrigates 15% of crop output in the United States and 13% of livestock. For example, pumped water irrigates plains in northern Colorado that feeds alfalfa and oats that go for livestock production. And water pumped to Southern California feeds vegetable crops that wind up in stores and restaurants all across the United States. Yeah, if you live in the US, chances are you ate something today that was made possible by the Colorado River. With so much at stake and so many people affected over such a wide area, it should be no surprise that there have been a lot of water treaties over the Colorado River. The Colorado River Compact of 1920.
What makes me think is I wonder how they would actually deal with this. Obviously, that he mentioned at the start, they're gonna if it gets to the point where they're at such a low level, they're not gonna give it to farm people, farmers and stuff, to use their water for their crops. I think that's what he said. But that doesn't really necessarily help the situation. That just means the river will be able to go on for longer. But what is the actual overall plan? Is it just something that's just going to eventually happen, or is it actual measures to try and stop this? Again, he's mentioned things, but those things still impact a lot of things. That will affect millions of people, right? But yeah, this must be such a weird situation to deal with.
Divided the river into the upper and lower compact states. At the time of the agreement, the river was estimated to hold 16.5 million acre-feet of water. This was at Lee's Ferry, which was the dividing point between the upper and lower compact states. So in the agreement, they agreed to split 15 million acre-feet of water between the upper and lower compact states, I guess 15 million being a nice round conservative number. And later on in 1944, another treaty allocated 1.5 million acre-feet to Mexico. Lake Powell feeds the upper compact states, that one was formed by the Glen Canyon Dam, and Lake Mead feeds the lower states, created of course by the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam also supplies almost all the electricity that powers the sights and sounds of Las Vegas. All in all, the Colorado River has 15 dams, providing power for cities all along its path and forming reservoirs that hold more than 4 times the river's annual flow. And its tributaries have hundreds more dams that do the same for smaller towns and municipalities. But going back to that 1922 compact, it turns out that estimate of 15 million acre-feet of water was actually kind of skewed. It turns out that the years leading up to the compact were an abnormally wet period, so there was actually less water available than the compact specified. This led to tight regulation of the hydrology in the region, which is why in some states like Colorado, it's very heavily regulated as to whether or not you can actually collect rainwater off your house, because it's kind of like you're stealing water from a state that has been promised that water by treaty. Now, in contrast to those abnormally wet years pre the compact being signed and everything, since the year 2000, the Colorado River has been experiencing a historic drought. Sure, the river's always had dry and wet times, but the last 20 years or so has been the driest the basin has seen in 1,200 years, based on tree ring and geological data. And the major factor behind this historic drought, take a wild guess. Climate change. It's climate change. According to studies by scientists...
I find it really weird when people say climate change is a political thing. Isn't that like the least political thing in the world? It's so weird how it's like seen as a political sort of thing. Some people don't like it when it's mentioned. It's just like, what? How is it something that's political? How is it something that's offensive? Like, I don't know. It's just weird to me.
Colorado State University and the University of California, Los Angeles, 53% of the loss in the river can be blamed on warmer temperatures. Warmer temperatures that reduce the amount of snowpack in the upper mountains in Colorado. Less snowpack, less meltwater, less river. Also, warmer temperatures cause plants to intake more water to kind of try to prevent dehydration, and also the warmer temperatures obviously cause more evaporation in the water as well. And the other 47% of the loss is blamed on shifts in precipitation patterns. As in, there's less rainfall in the areas that feed the tributaries in the Rocky Mountains and more rainfall in other areas that doesn't run off into the river as well. The scientists named this drought the Millennium Drought, and they compared it to a drought that occurred between 1953 and 1968 that also saw the river levels shrink. But that drought was caused more by just the loss of precipitation and not so much by warmer temperatures. There's actually more rain falling now in the Colorado River Basin than there was during that last drought, but the warmer temperatures have made the rivers shrink even lower than before. And when you factor in the rate of warming, it's predicted that the river's flow could decrease by 5 to 20% over the next 40 years. And by the year 2100, it could go down by 55%. Now, somebody in the comments is going to point out that population growth in that area is also a factor. And you wouldn't be wrong about that. The number of people in the states that rely on the Colorado River has gone up by 6 million people over the last 20 years. That's not nothing. In fact, some of the fastest growing areas in the country are in this region. Utah actually, between 2010 and 2020, saw the largest percentage increase in population in the entire United States. This is an actual problem, and there are people that are starting to talk about whether or not states should actually discourage people from moving there. Now, some might use that as a way of dismissing the climate change part of the equation by saying that, of course, there's more people there, so there's less water to go around. But that doesn't have anything to do with the measurably smaller snowpack in the mountains and the measurably higher temperatures. So population control is kind of a hard sell in politics for obvious reasons, but the increasing population is exacerbating an already very bad problem.
When we asked you how you
Wait,
surf
what?
safe
Ads? Wait, what am I on? I'm on my wrong account. I'll go here quickly then. Oh, that's great. I was so confused. I never get ads. Here we are, tangent count.
Whether or not states should actually discourage people from moving.
That's interesting though, like, you know, like states obviously want their cities to grow and grow and their populations to go up and up. But in this case, it's interesting to see that they're sort of hovering around the idea of maybe trying to stop people from being able to move or whatever. It goes to show how serious the situation is, but it's a very, like, again, and it just expresses how, like, real it is as well, because again, the states want their populations to grow, they want more people to live there to get more money and stuff, and just all that kind of stuff. So that does exacerbate how real this really is, and just how scary it is going to be. Like, the possibilities of this getting worse are there. Like, it's a wild situation
there. Now, some might use that as a way of dismissing the climate change part of the equation by saying that, of course, there's more people there, so there's less water to go around. But that doesn't have anything to do with the measurably smaller snowpack in the mountains and the measurably higher temperatures. So population control is kind of a hard sell in politics for obvious reasons, but the increasing population at stake here is exacerbating an already very bad problem. To reiterate just how much is at stake here, the Colorado River Basin supports a $1.4 trillion economy.
Wow.
If it was its own country, it would be the 7th largest country in the world economically. So
don't you dare say that. That is insane. I guess so, though, because if you've got a bit of California, I guess a bit of Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
if it was its own country, it would be the 7th largest country in the world economically. So what happens if that dries up completely? Well, just for starters, 40 million people would be without water, which would lead to some major population shifts from some of the largest cities in the United States, including LA, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. So when we hear people talk about mass migrations caused by climate change, it's not just coastal cities being flooded, it's things like this. But even for people who don't live in these cities, the effects could be catastrophic. Less water doesn't just kill crops, it also means more fish dying in rivers, so we could see food shortages, reduced hydroelectric power entering the grid, increasing the cost of all those things and countless other connected industries, all of which could compound on top of themselves and bring the world's 7th largest economy to its knees, destabilizing other economies and leading to a total economic collapse. Kind of starting off 2022 with a real joy gadget video. But hold up, don't panic yet. Anything like that could happen would be far in the future. And besides, there are some things that are being done right now to mitigate the problem. In October, the Arizona government allocated $30 million to keep more water in Lake Mead. These funds will be used to buy or rent water rights from Native American tribes and other people that have guaranteed water allocations. Urban areas are also doing their part for water conservation. For example, Las Vegas is now paying their residents to rip out their lawns and go with xeriscaping that uses less water, and Los Angeles plans on completely recycling all of their water by 2035. The big year to keep an eye out for is 2026. That's when the river's management guidelines are set to expire. At that point, every state and everybody with
an interest in water. Wait, does that mean like when you use a toilet and you have a shit or you have a piss, it's going to reuse the water? Don't say they're going to sort of turn that water into drinking water and stuff. How does it work? Like, do we drink? Does it eventually turn around like when you flush the toilet and obviously the water that's used to flush it, and they reuse water and all these sorts of things? So does it all like eventually just come around to you drinking water that's come from someone else's toilet and it's been cleaned and done all this stuff to it? Like how I should probably know this, but if you do know this, please let me know, because maybe it will further back my points of back my reasoning to using my water filter, because yeah, I just wonder. Let me know, please.
By 2035.
If you do
know. The big year to keep an eye out for is 2026. That's when the river's management guidelines are set to expire. At that point, every state and everybody with an interest in the Colorado River's future is going to come together and try to hammer out some new guidelines to keep it more sustainable going forward. And for all of you out there that really nerd out on the intricacies of water treaties, and I know there are tens of you out there, it's going to make for some riveting TV on C-SPAN. And whatever comes out of those talks had better work, or else the next meeting that they have to establish some guidelines is going to require mandatory still suits and evaporative water collection machines, which we know that's a huge bummer because they break down all the time and you've got to get to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. But all jokes aside, look, I know you're probably tired of hearing about climate change. It seems like everything that happens gets blamed on climate change. And at a certain point, even I am sitting here like, dude, it can't always be climate change, right? And that's true. Not everything is climate change. But this is, and it's really bad. We have to make some fundamental changes in the way we live and power our lives. If we don't do it by choice, we'll have to do it by necessity. Just ask those farmers in Arizona right now that are deciding which fields they're not going to plant this year. This is a tangible problem that is affecting people's lives today. And it's not just on the Colorado River. This is happening in river systems all around the world. So I don't know, as much as I talk about reducing climate change, maybe we should be talking just as much about exactly how we adapt to climate change over the next few decades. Because that is something we have already started doing. So, bummer of a video today, but you got anything to add? Anything that I missed? Are you experiencing these effects yourself? Are you doing your part to cut down on water consumption in the Colorado River Basin or other places?
Just anywhere.
Below. But hey, one thing that you can...
Because again, these issues will always come to someone else at a certain point. Just because it's not happening to you now doesn't mean it's not going to happen to you or people in your area at any time in the future.
Can do is to purchase food from more sustainable and organic farms, which can be kind of difficult. You got to research the different places and you got to go to certain stores to find it. Or you could sign up with today's sponsor, HelloFresh.
HelloFresh. Fair enough. I've actually used HelloFresh and I really liked it, but I tried using a code before and I couldn't. I think they gave out a free code for people to get a free week, and I didn't get it because I'm not in the US. Thank you for being informative. You are a kind teacher. I bet you have more impact on your viewers than you can imagine. Also, if anyone can be gentle with the tragic news, I would not mind learning of upcoming apocalyptic scenarios from your content. You're gonna die, but at least it's from Joe Scott. I did a report on this in 1998, and it's amazing how nothing gets better. Yeah, the world's scary, man. It is wild, like how climate change, or just how, again, because the Earth does change constantly as well. Like, again, like I said, it's not always climate change. Sometimes the Earth just changes the patterns of the where the rain, just all these things, like how hot certain places get, how the rain patterns are, and just literally everything. Just nothing's a guarantee. Like, things just do change too. So it's kind of scary how we're so reliant on just sort of nature to work for us sometimes, because even though there are rivers and stuff, you still got to rely on nature to maintain certain things. And yeah, pretty much what I'm saying is we live here on luck, but no. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this one. For the person who suggested this, thank you very much. This was a very interesting watch. And if you want more stuff like this or just more reactions, let me know in the comments. I'll try and do them in the future. But yeah, until next time, peace.